Dragon Ball Super has been one of the most successful IPs for Toei Animation in the past few decades. And when I mean decades, I mean literally decades. The first sign of Dragon Ball Super aired in 2012 with the Battle of Gods movie. Although it was in the title as Dragon Ball Z, it was hinted towards a brand new series being brought to light. All that being said, the initial startup for Dragon Ball Super was met with mediocre results. Fans were disappointed that the first two arcs would be recaps of the first two movies. And not only that, they were met with absolutely atrocious deadlines and all around terrible animation and production value. After those first two arcs, we were introduced to the Goku Black arc as well as the Universe 6 arc, which definitely saw improvements both in the art style and the story in general. Production took a huge spike upwards as we saw work from Naotoshi Shida as well as some help from Tadayashi Yamamoru. Dragon Ball Super kept climbing with the Zeno Expo and the Tournament of Power arcs, showing some of the best animation we've seen in modern anime. And then all of a sudden in March of 2018, Dragon Ball Super came to an abrupt halt. We were given two movies after that, but other than that, we've been left with absolutely nothing for the series and the future of it besides the mangas. It's now been 7 years since Dragon Ball Super has ended. I feel like now is as good a time as any to remember some of the tropes and mistakes that the Dragon Ball Super show left behind in its absence. Side note, this is not hate towards the show in general. I do love Dragon Ball Super for what it is, but I'm just going through some of the missed opportunities they've had with arcs, animation quality, and more. Let's get into it. Dragon Ball Super had a golden opportunity to expand the lore instead of rehashing the old Battle of Gods and Resurrection F movies. Instead of two recap arcs, we could have had legitimate God progression arcs. Think about how amazing it would have been to get a full training arc for Super Saiyan God, then follow it up with another one for Super Saiyan Blue. We could have explored the mental and physical toll each transformation took. Instead, Goku and Vegeta just kinda show up on Beerus' planet without any explanation. There was no real context on how they even got there, for the movies at least. The show expanded on it a little bit, but other than that, it just felt bland and, of course, rehashed, because they were going off of the movies. Why was Beerus training them? Why did Whis take interest in them so quickly? These things were never properly explained. We just had to accept it and move on. The God of Destruction lore could have had its own arc, or at the very least an arc diving into the angel hierarchy and the Zenos. Imagine an arc where Goku explores the other world again, but this time to uncover the secrets that only the gods know. This could also further the God training arc. That would have been incredible. The show teased us with all these new cosmic level ideas and never expanded on. Instead of giving us some filler episodes, they could have explored the rules of the multiverse. What happens if a God of Destruction dies? What are the true limits of the angels? The manga slightly touches on this, but the anime never went there. Structured arc showing Goku and Vegeta adapting to divine energy would have been perfect. They could have even explained how the ritual for Super Saiyan God worked, and if there were other ways to achieve it, aside from just blatantly transforming into it. We never saw Goku really train for it, and Vegeta just kinda had it all of a sudden. Why did they need the ritual once and never again? There's just so many holes that they could have filled in. It's frustrating when you realize how much world building was left untouched. Instead, they rushed through two already released movies. These arcs could have been used to make the series feel new, with solid writing and pacing. Dragon Ball Super could have reinvented itself. But unfortunately, it chose the easy route, and with that choice, they missed out on something truly special. Dragon Ball thrives when it expands its universe, and this was the perfect moment to do so. Toei Animation used to treat Dragon Ball like their crown jewel, but somewhere along the line, that love faded. The early years of Dragon Ball Super were rough. Episode deadlines were brutal and rushed. Animators were pushed to their limits with little to no support, and it showed. The animation quality was some of the worst in Dragon Ball history. Memes and jokes online were made about how bad it looked, and what's crazy is how little funding the series was getting despite its popularity. Compare that to how much love and attention One Piece gets. One Piece is consistently given great animation, time, respect, and more, and that's why it keeps winning. Meanwhile, Dragon Ball Super was treated like an afterthought. Even now, Dragon Ball Daima, before it even airs, is making insane money in promotions and merchandise, and it hasn't even gone international yet. Some reports say that in just 20 episodes of promotional material, it generated more than One Piece in 5 years. That's wild. Dragon Ball is still one of the most recognizable anime brands on Earth. If Toei just gave it proper animation teams and more time to develop each arc, the return would be massive. Not just in money, but in fan love and longevity. They clearly have the resources, they just need to care again. Give Dragon Ball the same attention as One Piece and watch it dominate the anime world again. It's not a question of capability, it's a question of priority. And sadly, Dragon Ball hasn't been one of Toei's priorities in a long time. It's been 7 years since the Dragon Ball Super anime ended. In that time, 2 full arcs could have been animated and released. The Moro arc and the Granolah arc both had potential to be fan favorites. Moro felt like a true Dragon Ball villain with menace and mystery. Granolah Granolah brought a level of emotional depth the series barely sees. Yes, those arcs were created a few years after the anime ended, but Toei had years to plan ahead. They had the time to animate them and prepare for a comeback. Instead, we got silence. And now, with the tragic passing of Akira Toriyama, the future of the franchise is more uncertain than ever. Toriyama essentially held the rights and the vision of Dragon Ball in his hand. Without him, the legal distribution of those rights becomes complicated, and the longer those rights sit in limbo, the longer the fans are left waiting. Dragon Ball fans are some of the most loyal in the world, but even loyalty has its limits. Toei is not only wasting time, they're wasting opportunity. This is the moment to reintroduce the anime, honor Toriyama's legacy, but instead, it's like everyone's just sitting on their hand. Every year they delay is another year of missed revenue, missed impact, and missed cultural moments. Dragon Ball can't afford to be dormant in this era. There's too much competition. The Moro and Granolah arcs could have set the stage for the next generation of Dragon Ball stories, but now we're just left wondering what's next, and more importantly, when. Dragon Ball Super was full of potential, but potential only matters if it's fulfilled. From lore expansions to animation quality, there were countless missed opportunities. Toei Animation has to start treating Dragon Ball with the respect it once had. The fans are still here, still waiting, but the clock is ticking. The longer they wait, the more chances they lose. Let's hope Dragon Ball rises again, stronger than ever. Alright, my personal, wow. I really like this script. I really like this, this conversation, because yes, it is real. Dragon Ball is, owned by multiple properties. The only thing basically holding the series together was Akira Toriyama. And from what we know now, in his will and testimony, he did not leave behind the rights to who is now placeholder of him. It's supposed to be Toyotaro because, he left him in charge of the story and the artwork and everything like that. Toriyama gave him bullet points, of course, but it was up to Toyotaro to write the story, to write the dialogue and such. And it really does suck because Dragon Ball was in that era where, companies were a lot more lenient with, collaboration. They weren't so worried about like who gets this percentage of revenue. They were more so worried about like we need to get this as to many as many people as possible. Because back then, TV shows and licenses for them were dirt cheap. You can buy them for a couple cents and broadcast it. Now, I can only imagine how much it costs for me to set up my own streaming service and then buy the rights to Daima. That's gonna be at least a few $1 million. And where's all that money going to? Dragon Ball Daima essentially acts as a placeholder now. It's just to calm the fans down because they need more time, potentially years to figure out who owns Dragon Ball. And it's not like one company's gonna hold them like some kind of evil red ribbon army. No, the rights are gonna be distributed, and you know what, I really hope that most of it goes to Toyotaro, because we've seen how good he can be with Dragon Ball. He's probably the only one inside like all the world understands it at the same level that Toriyama did. From writing fan mangas when he was a kid to meeting him in person to basically becoming a student, he has the smarts and he has the talent and capabilities to push the series further and eventually pass it on to the next of kin. But if anything, the legalities of it just doesn't see him winning that argument. Dragon Ball is probably going to go to Shueisha, if anyone, and then to Toei and other people like that, and then they will be the ones writing the story for Dragon Ball, and then it will just feel soulless. All we can do is pray now. All we can do is hope that Dragon Ball has a good future in the hands of Toyotaro. Thank you to Akira Toriyama for making this one of the best shows ever. And with your passing, I hope that your next student will be the one to rekindle that fire in the hearts of all of us. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to join the Discord server. This video was really fun to make, so subscribe. Get ready for some new videos. I'm uploading every day now. I love y'all. Peace.